So now we have Halle Bailey, who apparently is an advocate for support for women experiencing postpartum depression.
Ah.
So Halle Bailey was a guest on Jennifer Hudson's talk show,
Hmm.
and she talked about being recognized as this advocate for postpartum depression, and she spoke on her experiences with that and why it's something that she cares about and why it needs to be talked about more and so on and so forth. So this says Halle Bailey doesn't want women to feel alone during postpartum depression. Halle Bailey wants to use her maternal advocacy to look out for women undergoing postpartum depression. The Love or Something Like It vocalist was a guest on the Jennifer Hudson show last week, and around the 2 minute mark of the video below, Bailey discussed her choice in speaking up for vulnerable mothers. Bailey shares a 21-month-old son, Halo, with her ex boyfriend, streamer DDG. The Little Mermaid star added that the Little Mermaid star added that there are plenty of mothers around her age who are experiencing sudden emotions and hormones and need a strong support system. Bailey, who's spoken about postpartum depression in the past, had a legal battle with DDG over custody of their son after the entertainer claimed that he had assaulted her on several occasions. Earlier this month, a restraining order between the exes was extended until November 5th, months after Bailey sought an order of protection out of concern that she would be subjected to his threats and abuse. Around the time of the restraining order extension, DDG released new song 17 More Years, where he called Bailey a good mom, but shared his exhaustion with ongoing court dates. So we'll go ahead and get out of here because we do have a bit of a video uh, in which Halle Bailey talks about what she is trying to do to create an infrastructure of support for women experiencing postpartum depression.
Yes.
That is major, first of all. Tell us, yes, we need to give that a hand, that you're advocating for that and speaking out on it. Tell us why that's so important to you.
Oh my goodness. Well, it was so important to me because of basically like my mindset, what I was going through right when I had my child. And, I felt like, wow, I have to speak up about this, not only for, the older women, but the younger generation of women. There's a lot of girls my age, like around their 24, 25, having children.
Yes.
And we kind of are like, oh my goodness, when we give birth, we're like, wow, the emotions, the hormones, everything. You realize that you need a strong support system with you. You need help.
Yes.
You need people to love on you and make sure that you're okay. And so, I don't know, I just think it's amazing to just be open about it because it can help so many people and make you not feel alone.
The city of Los
Yeah, make you not feel alone. So what's the goal behind that? What did you think about that?
Well, yeah. The one thing about this is that this Bailey young lady got into a well documented uh, you know kerfluffle, all right, with our boy DDG.
That she
Uh,
did.
yeah, Mr. Lit. Okay, and a lot of her episodes that she and DDG went through um, was um, was due to, according to her and internet theorists, her postpartum depression and her extreme behaviors, her allegedly slicing him with objects and other things, her wild texts that she would send him. It was all due to her being postpartum. So for her to come out here and say that, hey, she wants to advocate for postpartum because um, from her understanding of it, once she gave birth, she needed support. She needed people to love on her and all these types of things. And just her advocating for that, just advocating for it. It's good PR. Is it true? Is it true? Yeah, it's true. When women give birth, they need to be loved on. Here's my take on postpartum depression. Do I believe it's a thing? I believe that after when women are pregnant, I believe in prepartum. Okay. I believe in prepartum. But when women get pregnant, their hormones indeed change. Okay, because they are giving hormones to another human. All right. And so by doing that, and this is my theory. You can follow along, dismiss it if you want, but when women are pregnant, they are acting as the vessel of giving life to another human. By doing that, they are going through these range of emotions, literally absorbing all kinds of emotions, feelings, blase splees. And that is being channeled and funneled into another human being. So that person can have feelings, emotions, and things of that nature. So women are acting as literally a vessel and absorbing everything that's going on. And so that happens during pregnancy. After pregnancy, there's another form of, hey, you gave birth. Now you have to give energy physically to that baby. You have to give emotional love to that baby. And by doing that, you have to channel all kinds of emotions. So women, through being pregnant and after giving birth, are literally acting as a vessel to make sure that the next human being has emotions. And so by doing that, she's channeling all of those, the good, the bad, and the ugly. So she's going to throw a shoe at you. She's going to get crazy, and air quote crazy, because she's funneling all of that stuff to give it to another person so that person can have ranges of emotion. It's a beautiful thing, if you ask me. Here's where I think it got turned into psychosis by the medical field. And this is a natural phenomenon that happens. And yes, women need support in those situations. They need support while pregnant and after pregnancy. But where does that support come from? So when you're dealing with an industrialized society, when you're dealing with one-on-one monogamous types of situations, or no nuclear family, just everybody just living and doing their thing independently, you run into a situation where there's a woman who has a baby with her husband, or a family with her husband, all right, and the man's off at work. Due to the Industrial Revolution and things of that nature, that man's off at work. So he's not giving support to the woman. The woman's at the house with one or multiple kids, and they are going insane, bouncing off the walls, doing all this type of stuff. And this woman went through prepartum and postpartum with all those ranges of emotion with nobody there to help her. Historically, there were either a family structure, a whole nuclear system where there's grandma, grandpa right there in the house to support and help. Or if there's a situation like in other cultures, there's other wives to be there to support, help, and do and take all that stuff off her shoulders. On top of that, there's nobody that's going to understand a woman like another woman. So when she's being irrational to us, it makes complete sense to her and her sister wives. So she can be consoled in those types of situations. So my point is, when you're dealing with this isolated, individualized society where there is no comfort towards these women, then you have these, and in these industrial settings when a man is forced to leave the house and work and all that stuff and leave all that stuff to one woman, that is a recipe for allowing those range of emotions that woman is going through to not be cultivated, to not be reined in, and to go wild. So then now you hear about the woman unaliving in bathtubs with her kids and doing all that other stuff. So is postpartum, what people call postpartum depression, real? It is. I'm not saying that it's not, but I'm saying that this air quote depression is only a depression due to the fact that there is no nuclear family, or no multiple wives type situation to help rein in those emotions. Because if one is going through it, then the other one understands and they can help out and do all that other good stuff. So her saying that she needed to be loved on and all this other stuff, she is growing up much like how every other woman here in the United States, for the most part, all right, is dealing with actual pregnancy and postpartum by themselves, essentially, because all the type of support systems that we used to traditionally have are now gone and now seen as useless. All right. So I think that her and other women that are suffering from these things don't need to. I think that society needs to change, and how we build families need to change. And but so long as we keep moving in this isolated individualized type of way, society, then what we call postpartum depression will continue to increase, and the symptoms and all of that stuff is going to continue to get worse. So I'm with her. I believe postpartum awareness is essential. I believe prepartum needs to be emphasized as well. But I think that this is just a byproduct of how society is run nowadays. I know that was a bit of a rant, but this to me, postpartum is one of those things that I feel as though don't need to exist, because historically, all right, if you go in the bush, you don't see no woman getting crazy, all right, because there's a system in place to make sure that those range of emotions are being cultivated and not going astray. So what are your thoughts, man, on Miss Halle Bailey? All right, saying that, hey, she wants to be an advocate for postpartum depression for all the moms out there struggling with that depression. What are your thoughts, man?
I mean, to be honest with you, I don't know if anyone noticed this, but I am not a woman. So, being someone who is not a woman, I'm not the most qualified individual to really speak on what a woman physiologically experiences when it comes to childbirth. However, I will say this because I was somewhat on your timeline with that. Um, it would have been nice, and I tried to watch that full interview to see if they actually did offer a bit more contextualization to this conversation, but I didn't really see it. It would have been nice if they would have clarified what she meant by more support. Because, like, does she mean women raising children alone? Does she mean women raising children with no support system whatsoever? Is she talking about a specific kind of support system? Like, I kind of feel like you needed that kind of clarity, and I didn't get that kind of clarity, because without that clarity, I am kind of left to assume, given my limited knowledge of how this postpartum works, that she's talking about women essentially raising children alone or with no support system at all. Because I'm not going to go so far as to talk about, polygamy and whatnot, because that's its own touchy subject. But what I will say is the nuclear family angle is something that I did think about and was going to broach, because and I could be wrong about this, but I feel like, if a woman is raising children, or if a woman gives birth and now she's raising children within a nuclear family context, and she herself comes from her own nuclear family context. So let's say she has sisters, or she has a mother, or she has women who are cousins, or maybe she has aunties or whatever. That support, I would imagine that would comprise the
Yes.
support system that a woman needs in
Yes.
order to not experience an inability to control those ranges of emotions.
Yes.
And so I thought about the eradication of the nuclear family structure is what I thought about, because I do believe that there is an increase in the prevalence of people having children outside of that particular kind of construct. And it's a generational thing. There's a high likelihood that if you yourself are raising a child devoid of a nuclear family structure, there's a decent chance statistically that you yourself came from a lack of a nuclear family structure. And if you came from a lack of a nuclear family structure, there's a higher likelihood that you don't have a mother or sisters or cousins or aunties to lean on for that support.
Yes.
So I would definitely like a little more clarification or a little more contextualization in terms of specifically what she means by needing support. Because if by needing support, she's talking about having more girlfriends or more women who experience the same thing, I'm going to be like, okay, well, I'm going to be a bit dismissive towards that notion. But if she's talking about more support in terms of having that insular unit around you, which I would amount to being a part of an actual family unit.
Yes.
So you have a mother there, you have aunties there, you have grandmother. You know, if you're still blessed enough that your grandmother is still alive, you know, mom, grandma, auntie, cousins, sisters, you know, and then if you can throw in friends into the mix, sure. But the family structure to me is what's paramount to one being able to manage that kind of challenge successfully. And I do think we have come to believe that anything traditional nowadays is inherently problematic.
Yes.
And the nuclear family unit, in terms of the way that we perceive it, is a traditional notion.
Yes.
So as we continue to move further away from traditional notions,
Yes.
you are by default going to continue to move further away from nuclear family structures.
Yes.
And so when you move further away from nuclear family structures and you have women raising children outside of the confines of that, you're going to see more of a prevalence of a lack of a support system when it comes to being able to manage that.
Yes.
So, I'm, again, this is me kind of speaking on it without being able to speak on firsthand experience. But what I do know for sure is the idea of a core family unit. And I'm not just talking about you're raising your child with the father of your child. I'm talking about a core family unit where you have a close, tight knit, firm relationship with your mother and your grandmother, your aunties, your sisters, your cousins, that kind of deal. That is slowly dying by the wayside.
Yes.
And so I feel as though the more of that is slowly dying by the wayside, unfortunately, there's going to be the rise in a lot of these the aspects of collateral damage that come along with an absence of that kind of support system.
Yes.
So we can debate all day long about the causes of postpartum and where it comes from and how to manage it and whether it is clinical or whether it is a fallacy perpetrated by the pharmaceutical industry and the medical field and all of that kind of stuff. We can definitely go back and forth with those debates. But what I do believe at this point is undeniable is the erosion of traditional values. I believe that is not debatable, personally. I don't think at this point we can have a fair and honest conversation in which we engage in a debate as to whether there is an existence of an erosion of traditional values. I believe the book is out on that, and it is unequivocally true that in 2025, traditional values have eroded significantly. And part of those traditional values is a nuclear family structure and
Yes.
the need for it and the importance of it. And I don't think that you can summarily discount how that correlates to women being able to successfully manage whatever happens in the immediate aftermath of giving birth to kids. So that's my take on that one.
And let me say this as far as how the nuclear family situation is, and we talk about the marriage rates and all those other things through satellite conversations, but that ties into this as far as the erosion of marriages that are going on, because at that point, if there's no marriages there, how can there be a nuclear family situation?
Right. Yeah.
So the instances of postpartum situations are going to go through the roof. All right. So then you'll see these a situation, even if there is a man and a woman, the guy's locked in, he's there to help, he's there to do all of that stuff. I'm telling you right now, if those two parents are doing it by themselves, they're doing it alone. There needs to be a system, as they say, it takes a village. No, it literally does. And if you don't have a village around to raise that child, all right, then that woman does not have the support. So her range of emotions won't be able to process the fact that she's doing this by herself, because she knows she's doing it by herself because there's no help. And even as much as the guy wants to be a help, and now I'm stay-at-home dad, I'm doing all this, she needs help.
Well,
because
and then,
but
yeah, you're right. Not to cut you off, but again, like, you know, any infrastructure of any sort of infrastructure, it can be the workplace, it can be marriages, it can be a family unit where there's parents and kids and whatnot. And I've said this before and I'll say it again.
mm,
It doesn't function optimally when the individuals involved in it are not adhering to their best suited roles. Like, we all have innately, there are roles that we are best suited to play. That's not socialization to me, that's biology. Like,
mhm,
I think that that's what makes us humans.
mhm.
In any situation in which we have to deviate from our core roles and try to fill in gaps and adhere to roles in which we are not best suited, it's not really going to work. So like, to your point, when you're talking about a man and a woman doing things alone, and a man is off to work, but a man also has to provide the support. If those two individuals are trying to do it alone, and a man is having to adhere to roles that run counter to the roles that he best occupies, it's still going to create dysfunction
Yes, correct.
because he's not best suited to fill those roles.
Exactly.
So that's why the importance of a family structure is necessary, and it's why we have made a mistake in terms of embracing all these new age forms of living in
Yeah.
which we forsake traditionalism, because at the end of the day there are certain biological aspects of our existence that you cannot deviate from,
Yes.
and one of those are roles within the confines of any relationship. Like, we all adhere to role. These things don't work without adhering to roles. It just doesn't. I'm sorry. I'm sorry if that rubs people the wrong way, but as a woman in a marriage, or as a woman dealing with kids, there are roles that you're best suited to occupy. Trying to deviate from that for the sake of trying to embrace doing things a new way, a progressive way, in which there's all of this swapping going on, is going to be dysfunctional.
Yes.
And the same thing, vice versa, if you're trying to get a man to occupy roles that aren't best suited for him to occupy. So,
Exactly.
you know, people got to keep that stuff in mind. So I'm inclined to agree with you to a certain extent. This is a deviation from the way that we were put here to be,
Yes.
existentially. Like, this
Yeah.
is an existential conversation. And I
Mhm.
think trying to explain it has beget all of these clinical explanations and all of these medical DSM-5
Exactly.
explanations.
Exactly.
But at the end of the day, moving away from traditionalism in that sense has been problematic, even though everyone nowadays likes to think that anything traditional is bad. And,
Yes.
I'll continue to fight against that idea, because it's just wrong. I don't agree with that.
So, and in the modern conversation, when it comes about postpartum depression, this type of conversation where we're talking about nuclear families and family structures and stuff like that is never brought up. It is never mentioned, and postpartum depression is brought up as if an inevitability that happens when a woman has a child, that it's automatic, and it's not something that's necessarily automatic unless the right things are set in place, the right type of support system is set in place. And if the right things are set in place, then a woman going through those types of changes would be supported. The child would be supported, the husband or whoever would be supported. But just speaking on this as an island, as an independent factor, that postpartum depression is something that will strike you down. I don't believe in that. All right, I believe that that is a byproduct of how societies function, and so it will be prevalent in a society that emphasizes independence, that emphasizes not having a family structure, as American society does. And so, real quick, I Googled it. The premise behind it, at least according to Google, was initially coined or sparked by hypocrisy. What? Uh, Hippocratic.
The Hippocratic oath, or the
Yeah,
Hippocratic, yeah,
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 Hippocrates, whatever his name is.
yeah, yeah.
And so he came up with, but he just basically just said that, hey, women change when they get pregnant, bro. they be going through it. And it's like, yeah, okay, thanks, Greek philosopher. You know what I'm saying, for pointing that out. You know what I'm saying? But there were societies and stuff like that that pre-exist him or went on congruently with his society that was fully aware of that and had systems in place to make sure those women didn't go off the rails. But when we're talking about Greek society and stuff like that, where they're exiling women and men can be over here and the women got to be over there, and they have this sense of independence in that Greek society, they realize that these women are going manic and going crazy. Why? Because there was no family structure or whatever like that in Greek society. That's why the Greek society, in my opinion, is the one who initially identified this problem. Well, we, historically, the other ones identified it too, but they had systems in place to make sure that those were balanced. And so now, and then they said in the 18th century, all right, some other dude came up with the actual term and said, hey, these women lose their damn mind. Well, of course, in the 18th century, when all this industrial and all this other stuff is going on, where there is no family structure, how historically things went. And of course, these women are going to be manic and be crazy. So this is not a byproduct of life. This is a byproduct of moving away from life. And so the conversation that we have about having a family and stuff like that, and family struggle, all that good stuff, that is how humans are intended to move. And if there are systems in place, women don't go through what Miss Bailey went through. So then she wouldn't have to sit on a talk show and advocate in the sense that, hey, I got to speak up for all my postpartums, because, hey, there's a lot of them. Because there's a lot of single moms out here, and there's a lot of situations where there's just one-on-one husband and wife and no family around. And I'm telling you right now, if there is no village, the woman may lose her mind. So just word of the wise for people out there, if there's a woman out there or a man out there or whatever, just try your best to keep family infused, keep the friends infused, not have them raise the child for you. But make sure that there are people, as she mentioned, to love on her, to console her. Because, right, as I said, as a man, we're too rational to understand what a woman is going through. She can explain to us, and it don't make no damn sense. But, you'll sit there and you drop her next to her homegirl, and they, yeah, I get that. How the hell you get that? That don't make no damn sense. She needs that. And if she doesn't have that, she's going to lose her damn mind. Mm-hmm. So, I think that this is a conversation that needs to be had and not have postpartum just thrown out there as a buzzword. I think we need to get back to family. So I think that's my takeaway from this.
And I think that's a pretty good takeaway. I think that's the overall takeaway. That was definitely the main takeaway that I had, was just the erosion of it. And even there was one thing that you said that I thought was pretty profound. You haven't said it in a while, but you said it a long time ago. You said, one thing that's good about marriage is, it's not that marriage constrains you, but it keeps you out of trouble.
Keeps you out of trouble.
Like there's, so the thing about like, even the concept of marriage, we've basically, made it a derivative of bondage or enslavement. Yes. or constraint. Yes. Or now, granted, there are people who are getting married for the wrong reasons, certainly. But then, for people who still idealistically romanticize the notion of being married, you have to understand that this thing is a pact. Yes. You're entering into something not just for the piece of paper and to be able to say you have a husband and or a wife. There's an infrastructure that you're creating as a result that has a lot of ancillary benefits. You get married, man, those in-laws, that becomes an additional set of hands. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Like, I had one friend who, she talked about how when she got divorced, things became difficult, not necessarily because of the divorce in and of itself, but because she lost a significant amount of a support structure because of the not having the in-laws there anymore. Mm-hmm. Because, she had in-laws to help her. Mm-hmm. She had even her husband's mother in addition to her own mother. Yeah. And so these family matters,
yes,
what I'm saying?
It does.
No pun intended. Yeah. it matters, man. And we gotta go back to the center with a lot of this stuff in the world today. I'm gonna get off my soapbox, but man, we've gone so far left with so much stuff. And it's like, yeah, man, independence and individual agency and all of these things. It's like, there's this idea that in order to pursue one, it means that there's the absence of the other.
Yes.
And what people tend to discover in the pursuit of these things is you've achieved all of this and you
Yes.
still feel
Empty.
unfulfilled. Yeah, you
Yes.
still feel empty and there's something missing and something wrong.
Yes.
And then you'll have people who make $40,000 a year and they feel great. And they don't care about how much money they make or how successful they are in their career, but they've achieved all of these other things. And so they feel whole. And I'm not trying to dismiss people who go the career route or anything like that, but life is all about balance. And I think in an effort to shirk away from not responsibility, but in an effort to move away from core traditional values, we have rendered ourselves devoid of balance.
Yep. Hey, well said, man. So last thing I'll say about this is, what's the solution to this society? Hey, man, they're going to do what they do. But while you're out there, while you're doing your vetting process, while you're building your family, while you're building your legacy, just make sure that one of the things that you emphasize and try to keep near and dear to you and that you actually execute is making sure that there's family and loved ones around to help you and your family out as y'all grow. Because if y'all try to do it by yourselves, you're doing it by yourself. So, best of luck to y'all's out there.
Yeah.
Shout out to DDG.
Yeah. Shout out to Halle Bailey, man. I hope she's in better spirits. You know what I'm saying? That's unfortunate. People have to go through that kind of stuff. But hey, man, your baby daddy is a guy who's always, worried about whether the next guy's more lit than him. So.
Unbelievable.